Hello, my name is Yara. I am a medical doctor and also I have masters in clinical nutrition from Sheffield University in the UK. So today I'm happy to talk to you about menstrual cycle, women's health and nutrition. Like what is the connection between nutrition and the symptoms that women might experience during their menstrual cycle? Okay, so first, just like general tips, like a summary of what the research found about lifestyle and the symptoms of PMS and other symptoms also of the menstrual cycle. First thing is that exercise and a healthy diet in general are natural ways to reduce PMS. Like as you might all know, PMS symptoms can be different from a woman to another. So they might be like bloating, signs of digestive discomfort, of course, cramps and abdominal pain. Some people might experience diarrhea, others might experience constipation, breast tenderness. So in general, symptoms are different from a woman to another, but they can be very uncomfortable for some women, and some women have them much stronger than others. So now, in general, a healthy diet and lifestyle and exercise in general are natural ways to reduce those symptoms. The other tip is to reduce salt, which makes absolute sense because during, like just before the menstruation, so I'm just gonna briefly say we have three phases. The first phase is the menstruation phase. The second phase is the follicular phase, which is just before the ovulation. And then the ovulation comes in the middle, and then we have the luteal phase. After the luteal phase, we have menstruation again. And so it repeats in a cycle. So we need to limit salt, especially during the end of the luteal phase and the beginning of the menstruation phase, just because the body gets to, like some women can experience retention of fluids to a degree that can be very uncomfortable for some women. So when we reduce salt, we try to avoid or minimize these symptoms, reduce bloating and breast tenderness. So it's a good idea to reduce salt. One tip is that the majority of our salt intake doesn't actually come from the salt that we add during cooking, but comes from ready-made meals, such as packaged foods, such as fast foods that we get from restaurants, anything that is in a package, sometimes the canned food. So we need to try to eat as natural as possible, and this will limit largely our salt intake. The other thing is, of course, eat the rainbow. I mean, this is the tip that we always give as nutritionists and dietitians. Eat a variety of colors coming from fruits and vegetables because each color represents an antioxidant, and antioxidants are very, very important in fighting inflammation and free radicals. So when we eat a variety of colors, we get a variety of nutrients, minerals, and vitamins that we really need for our body to fight free radicals like oxidative stress and also inflammation. And specifically leafy green vegetables such as kale, spinach, and other greens, because they are high in iron and they are high in B vitamins. And there are studies that showed that higher amounts of B vitamins can reduce symptoms of PMS. And of course, we all know because of the bleeding, we lose a lot of iron. So we need to compensate for that loss. So having green leafy vegetables in general, along with the other colors of the fruits and vegetables, is really, really important on a daily basis. Eat more calcium-rich foods. So calcium also has been associated with better symptoms, lower, less cramps, and less symptoms of PMS. So the recommendation is to always eat reduced fat dairy because we need to reduce our saturated fat intake in general. Or, for example, if you don't get dairy, you can get it from plant-based sources such as soy milk or other kinds of milk like almond milk or oat milk, but just make sure that it is fortified with calcium because naturally plant sources of milk, they don't come with calcium, but companies fortify them with calcium so that they match the amount of calcium that is in dairy. As well as canned sardines that come with bones. When we eat the bones, also they are rich in calcium. Sesame seeds, chia seeds have calcium. Leafy greens as like along with the iron also and the vitamin B. So leafy greens are really an important component of the diet. And then we have legumes and almonds. They are also high in calcium. Now, also vitamin D level is very important, and also studies have linked it to better outcomes during the menstrual cycle. So make sure that you have a good level of vitamin D. You can only know that by doing a blood test. Um, in general, the recommendation is for everyone to take supplements around 800 international units per day. But of course, before you do that, go back to your doctor and just get a consultation and get the advice of your own vitamin D levels and how much you should take. Of course, getting some sunlight around 10 to 15 minutes a day is also important for the body to be able to make the vitamin D. Now, drinking plenty of water and drinking less caffeine. So, just before menstruation, it's important to reduce the amount of caffeine because caffeine can be dehydrating because it, what is the word? Like it secretes more urine. It helps the body to secrete more urine, to get rid of more urine. And also, caffeine can cause more irritability, insomnia, which are symptoms of PMS. So we need to reduce the caffeine to control the symptoms of PMS more. It can also might cause headache in some people. Again, I would say that because symptoms are different from one person to another, and also caffeine effect on people or on women is also different from a woman to another. So just listen to your body. You know your body. You know how caffeine affects you, and try to always limit the consumption and try to take it in moderation because coffee and tea, they are high in antioxidants. So many studies have shown the amazing benefits of having coffee and tea, but also have them in moderation and try to reduce them during just before the menstrual phase. And now the other thing is to have nuts with dark chocolate in moderate amount. Why is that? It's because nuts are high in magnesium, and magnesium is very important to ease cramps, to also reduce irritation, irritability, give a feeling of being calmer in general. And dark chocolate is because, first of all, nuts and dark chocolate are like a match made in heaven. And the second thing is because we tend to crave more sweets during that phase, like the end of the luteal phase. We tend to crave more sweets, and we can curb that craving by having small amounts of dark chocolate. When we couple them with nuts, also, where the nuts have the fiber, nuts have also the fat, the good fat, and also some protein. This way, it gives us a very satisfying feeling. So if we have them in small amounts, then that could really reduce our intake of other sugary foods, which we definitely should pay attention to. Okay. Now, the other thing is that we need to eat a variety of whole grains. Anything that is things like brown pasta, brown bread, like whole wheat or whole grain, multi-cereal kind of bread, brown rice, all these things, and also along with the legumes. So, because whole grains, they can help with the synthesis of serotonin, and serotonin is the happiness hormone. And the thing, what happens in the luteal phase is that serotonin goes down. And this is why some people might experience some feelings of depression and low mood. And having enough whole grains in general, because carbohydrate can help to regulate the synthesis of serotonin and also to regulate blood sugar levels. So the whole grains, because of the fiber in them, they can regulate blood sugar levels. So it's important to have whole grains. I know there's a lot of people are scared of having carbs. There's a lot of diets that are like more toward eating less carbs and eating higher protein and fat. However, we should have enough carbohydrate during our day. We should have them from whole grain sources because they contain a lot of vitamins and minerals, And as I said, they can really help to synthesize serotonin as well, because they have tryptophan also in them, and tryptophan can help to synthesize serotonin. The other thing is to limit alcohol. We know so many bad effects of alcohol, but also alcohol can disrupt sleep. And a lot of people might experience insomnia during when they are experiencing PMS. So it's important to limit alcohol. I mentioned before about the bleeding and the iron, so we need to eat iron-rich foods. However, not too much red meat, although red meat is really rich in iron and in zinc. But red meat also contains something called prostaglandins, and prostaglandins can help the uterus to contract. So it actually increases cramps. And for people who are experiencing bad cramps during their PMS, it's advisable to reduce red meat and to have more plant sources of iron and of protein. So we can have green leafy vegetables, we can have legumes like lentils are rich in iron, some dried fruits also are rich in iron. And always make sure when you get your iron from plant sources to couple it with vitamin C sources, such as just having a salad on the side, or maybe just squeezing some lemon juice on your food to help iron absorption. Eat less sugar and more fruits. I mean, this is very straightforward. We need to try to reduce sugar, and we know that a lot of sugar craving happens during the premenstrual phase, or the luteal phase, the late luteal phase. So what we need to do is to try to eat less sugar, and like I mentioned before, the dark chocolate with the nuts can really help with that, along with eating fruits as well. Avoid skipping meals, and the reason is because we don't want the blood sugar to dip down a lot, because this will cause people to crave more and to want to eat in bigger quantities. When we eat in regular intervals, then we're not going to experience this, and we can regulate our blood sugar throughout the day, which is very good. Also having herbal teas and like things like ginger, turmeric, peppermint, chamomile, all these things, they can be really helpful, and also they do have some anti-inflammatory effect. So especially like ginger and turmeric, they have been shown to have some anti-inflammatory effect, and that can really help to ease cramps. Also, we need to focus on omega-3 rich foods such as fish, as we all know, like salmon, like oily fish, but also we can find it in flax seeds, in chia seeds, we can find it in in walnuts, and omega-3 has an anti-inflammatory effect. And then also we need to limit our consumption of fast food, highly processed and fatty food. They are high in sugar, they are high in fat. It can be hydrogenated fat, trans fat, it can be saturated fat, and it's all not good for our health. And of course, it might be also high in sugar. So these are just general tips. Now I'm going to talk about a few research studies and the outcome of these studies related to the menstrual cycle and nutrition for women. So what does the research say? I'm going to start with this very important research, and allow me to read also from my notes, because I have a lot of additional information other than in the slides. So now, a weight loss program, the title of the study is a weight loss program adapted to the menstrual cycle increases weight loss in healthy, overweight, premenopausal women, a 6-month randomized controlled trial. That was in 2016 in Denmark. What they did is they examined the effect in healthy, overweight, premenopausal women of a diet and exercise weight loss program that was designed to target and moderate the effects of menstrual cycle compared with the effect of simple energy restriction. So they compared two groups. The first group was simple energy restriction, and the second group was adapted to the menstrual cycle. A total of 60 healthy, overweight, premenopausal women were included in a 6-month weight loss program in which each subject consumed a diet of 1,600 calories per day. Which is a very, very good amount of calorie. It's not too low and it's not high, so it can really help people to lose weight in the right way. Because if we reduce the calorie content so much, then people will experience weight loss, but then this weight will also include losing muscle mass and losing water from the body. So what we need is we need to give enough calorie for the body to start burning fat, but to reserve our muscle mass. Subjects were randomly assigned to either a combined diet and exercise program that was tailored to metabolic changes of the menstrual cycle, and this group we're going to call it menstrualine, or to undergo simple energy restriction, which is a control group. Women in the menstrualine group commenced their respective programs on the first day of their menstruation. Subjects in the control group commenced on a randomly selected and uniformly distributed start date within 28 days. Okay, so I'm going to show you this table and I'm going to just tell you a few information about it. All subjects were instructed in maintaining a diet with a daily energy intake of 1,600 calories during the 6 months study period. Now, for the weight loss program, the menstrualine diet was synchronized to match the menstrual cycle. So a 28-day dietary plan that was separated into 3 phases that corresponded to the following 3 menstrual phases: menstruation, which is phase 1, and that is from day 1 to 5; the follicular phase, which is phase 2, and that is from days 6 to 14; and the luteal phase, which is phase 3, days 15 to 28. The macronutrient composition of the menstrualine diet was aligned to match each of the 3 phases of the menstrual cycle. So the protein content of the diet was increased to optimize the body's response to increased resistance training in phase 2, which is the follicular phase, and kept at this increased level in phase 3, which is the luteal phase, with an aim to increase satiety, thereby maintaining adherence to a weight loss diet despite the higher daily energy deficit in this phase. And also the dietary fat content was increased in phase 3 to accommodate the cravings. So phase 3 is a luteal phase, to accommodate the cravings that are often experienced in this phase. Furthermore, a portion of dark chocolate was allowed to be consumed on day 24 to 28, thereby increasing the daily caloric limit to 1,800 calories, also with the aim of satisfying cravings. So if you look here, we can see that the carbohydrate content in the menstrualine group in the phase 1, which is the menstruation phase, is 60%, meaning 60% of our total calorie intake during the whole day is coming from carbohydrate. So this is for the intervention group, which is the menstrualine group. If you notice in the phase 2, which is the follicular phase, they reduced the carbohydrate to 50%, and then they reduced it further in the luteal phase to 40%. And that is because they wanted to increase protein and fat in phase 2 and phase 3. So if you look at protein, the menstruation phase was 20, so the energy intake, 20% of it was coming from protein. They increased it to 30% in phase 2 and 30% in phase 3. And then the fat also was 20% in phase 1, 20% in phase 2, but they increased it to 30% in the luteal phase or phase 3. Compared to the control group, if you look at the distribution of the calories in the control group, they kept it at a standard, which is during all the phases, it was 45 to 50% coming from carbohydrates, 15 to 20% coming from protein, and 30% coming from fat. So the control group was instructed to follow a program that was based on the Danish education unit-based diet system. It's called the diet calendar. The system is built around tables that facilitate a simple calculation of the calorie content of foods and meals, thereby controlling total daily energy intake. This method ensured that there was strict control of energy intake while allowing freedom as to choice of foods. The macronutrient composition of the control diet was persistent throughout the period. Now, what about physical activity? Also, physical activity was very different in the menstrualing group. It was synchronized to the menstrual cycle. So subjects were advised to pick one light activity each day from a list of exercises such as walking, yoga, or stretching when in the menstruation phase. And then in phase 2, which is the follicular phase, subjects were advised to perform circuit and weight training. 2 days a week, and to alternate with cardio and interval training 2 to 3 days a week. Subjects were advised to alternate weight training with cardio workouts in phase 3, which is a luteal phase, with an aim to optimize the higher energy expenditure during this phase. The control exercise program was performed in accordance with Danish public health guidelines for physical activity, which corresponded to 30 minutes physical activity per day with high intensity activity for 20 minutes twice a week. So as we can see here, during menstruation phase, they advised people to do just light exercise such as stretching, walking, and yoga. And then in the follicular phase, they started doing more cardio interval training. And then in the luteal phase, they went more towards the strength training along with the cardio, like weight training and strength training along with the cardio. The control group had the standard moderate physical activity for 30 minutes every day, and also with high intensity activity 20 minutes per week. Sorry, 20 minutes twice per week. Now, what are the results? This is interesting. Let's see. The result. 31 women eventually actually completed the study. So there was a lot of people withdrawing from the study. Sorry, they are telling me this meeting will end in 10 minutes. Upgrade now. Okay, so in 10 minutes I will do another link and I'll send you the link to continue the meeting. So the result, 31 women completed the study. Both groups lost weight during the 6 months of the study. The control group lost around 6.8 plus minus 0.8 kilograms. So it's almost 7 kilograms for the 6 months they did the intervention. Compared to the menstrualine group, so the intervention group, which lost around 11 plus minus 1.1 kilogram during the 6 months. Therefore, there was an extra weight loss of 4.3 plus minus 1.4 kilogram in the menstrualine group compared to the control group. So here we see that there was a significant more weight loss for the menstrualing group compared to the control group when they did those changes during adjusting to the menstrual cycle. Traditional weight loss programs have generally specified energy intake and the level of physical activity, often as repeating weekly schedule. The menstrualing program met the natural increase in energy intake and changes in preferences by allowing an increase in dietary fat and an extra 200 calories as dark chocolate in the luteal phase. High protein meals increased satiety and fullness and reduced hunger and energy intake in subsequent meals. It is reasonable to assume that the higher protein content in the menstrualing diet aided the overall adherence to the energy restriction. This is the first report of a study that has examined the impact of a differentiated diet and exercise weight loss program that was synchronized with the menstrual cycle in a group of healthy, overweight, premenstrual women. The data provides suggestive evidence that synchronizing dietary composition and exercise with the menstrual cycle can have an additive effect to a traditional diet and exercise program. So this is such an important study, and that's why I wanted to share it with you in details. Now I'm quickly going to mention a few other studies, but very briefly. So in 2015, there was a study in Iran, and they didn't find any association between caffeine-containing foods, including tea and coffee, and any of the menstrual distress signs. Although some other observational-based studies reported that the women complaining of more signs consumed more caffeine, but the role of caffeine in menstrual distress signs is yet unclear, and more research is going to be needed for this. Now, the other study, it was published in 2009 in Brazil, and they found that energy, carbohydrate, and fat consumption in the luteal phase, which is the pre-menstruation phase, was greater than in the follicular phase. And one hypothesis for this, one hypothesis that attempts to explain the consumption of carbohydrate in the premenstrual or the luteal phase is concerned with the reduction in the levels of serotonin in this phase of the cycle. The ingestion of carbohydrate-rich meals increases the synthesis of tryptophan, the main substrate for serotonin synthesis, increasing its concentration during the premenstrual phase. So as I mentioned to you before, we have reduced serotonin, which is a happiness hormone, and this can explain the low mood and the feelings of depression in some women. And when we have, and that's why the body will respond in increasing our craving for carbohydrate-rich foods and also sugary foods. And when we eat whole grains, like when we have enough fiber in our diet and we take them from sources that are healthy, like such as fruits, dried fruits, and also whole grains, then we can regulate that and we can give the body enough carbohydrate to make the serotonin that is needed. The increase in lipid consumption in the luteal phase has been described in the literature as resulting from the effect of hormones over the metabolism. It is believed that progesterone, which is high during the luteal phase and then goes down and then the bleeding happens, is believed that progesterone would promote the accumulation of lipids in adipose cells, resulting in a reduction in plasma triglycerides and therefore stimulating the consumption of meals containing superior levels of fat. So another study, also in Brazil in 2018, found that the desire for foods rich in sugar, salt, and fat, such as chocolate, pastries, snacks, and desserts, were higher during the luteal phase, although it did not reflect a higher energy intake. So overall, in this study, they didn't find an overall higher energy intake. A higher intake of carb, protein, fiber, and calcium was observed during the luteal phase. Food cravings differed between the phases of the menstrual cycle, however, with no differences in food intake and in anthropometric measures. So they didn't find that these cravings actually caused people to gain weight. They only found that the body regulated itself. And the last study I want to mention, which is really nice, it was in Spain, published in 2020. Women who follow the Mediterranean diet, which the recommendations that we gave at the beginning all go along with the Mediterranean diet. So women who followed it more closely had shorter menstrual cycles, although no difference was found in suffering from the pain. They also found that women who ate less than 2 pieces of fruits per day were more likely to suffer menstrual pain. Higher alcohol consumption was associated with longer periods, and the amount of menstrual bleeding was lighter in women who consumed olive oil on a daily basis. In contrast, it was heavier among those who consumed ham, which is a kind of processed meat. So, 1 second. I think we finished the studies that I wanted to mention. And if you have any questions, please, if you want to post them on WhatsApp, I'm happy to answer them. If you want to send them to Alicia and she can send them to me, any way you like, I'm happy to answer any questions. And thank you so much for listening. And I hope to see you later. Thank you.